All right, guys, I hope everybody's safe and doing well. These are scary times. Needless to say, the most unusual times ever. I've had somebody tell me it reminded him of his dad talking about what was going on in World War II. So, needless to say, none of us experienced this, and hopefully we'll get better and everybody will pay attention to the scientists, the doctors, and get through time. But the last 3 weeks, I've played golf in March and April, first time in my life. Don't know how to experience that, but just basically staying at home. I'm up in the mountains with Wanda and staying up here most of the time. But other than that, doing a lot of phone calls with players, prospects, families, everything. But other than that, doing nothing except trying to keep our distance from everybody else, probably just like you guys are doing. And I haven't watched ESPN in the last 3 weeks, hardly at all, because I've been in tune to CNN and what's going on in our country.
If you have a question, go ahead and just raise your hand and on the list. Okay, Greg Barnes. I'll go to Greg here if I can get.
Steve's been tested this morning also.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to. All right, Greg, go ahead.
Hey, Roy. Just wondering how you and your staff are kind of dealing with the recruiting situation in terms of the dead period that's going on for a couple of weeks, and how you're trying to mitigate that and make the best of a bad situation.
Well, it is a bad situation, but more 100 times worse is what the health concerns are in our country. So, it was extended till April 15th, the dead period. Now it's extended to May 30th, I think it is. And so it's even more than a couple of weeks. Just trying to do as much as you can on the phone, getting more tapes probably than we've ever asked for just to see other people. But basically just staying on the phone. Needless to say, we had already done a little work, average probably, with this year's junior class in high school. But that's the biggest focus right now. And I don't see us, I guess what I'm hoping for is to get the July period so you can see people in person. But I don't have any idea if that's going to come. And if it doesn't, that means it's not the safest thing. So just got to put up with it. Our guys on my staff who are good with social media, I'm sure they're doing some things, but since I don't get there, I don't have any idea what they're doing, but I'm very confident that they're doing some great things.
Andrew Jones.
Coach, speaking of social media, I know you had some jokes before about Twitter and stuff, but have you done more on social media, stuff like Zoom? Or are you realizing that maybe that's might be your best avenue to communicate with some of these kids for a while?
I haven't done Zoom with the prospects the last 3 Sunday nights. We've had been in Chapel Hill, and we've had a Zoom presentation or whatever the heck you want to call it, where I can see all 18 of my guys and talk to them about the academic side and what they're doing and what needs to be done. And just I asked them 3 questions at the end of it this Sunday night. I said, are you being how's your family first, and secondly is, are you being smart and staying away from people? And then thirdly, just a very simple question: give me something positive that you've done this week, either with your family, with your academics, or anything. So I've done it with my team, and I've done several PSA type things with the Zoom, but I haven't had any of the Zoom, whatever this is, with prospects. I've FaceTimed a couple of them, but that's it.
Pat 40.
Yeah. Hi, Roy. Just wanted to actually go back to what we discussed in October, and I'm wondering, as much as you like going to spring sports around campus, how much are you going to miss going to see Carolina play sports?
I hate this. Boy, I'm telling you, I love the spring always more when we had a successful basketball season. There's no question about that. But not being able to go to the baseball games or watching our women's tennis or women's lacrosse, I mean, go down the line. I've always loved that. And sitting in Boshammer watching baseball games is one of my favorite pastimes. It's a beautiful spring day in Chapel Hill. So it has taken away everything that I've always wanted to do and enjoyed doing. And like I said, I've only watched Sports Center probably an hour ever since this stuff hit. And I know they've been replays of a lot of games and some of the games that we've even been involved in, but I haven't watched any of those either.
CL
Especially
Brown.
as good as some of our teams looked like they were going to be in the spring, I was really looking forward to, our men's and women's tennis teams were great. Always enjoyed the baseball, softball, lacrosse. I mean, everything. I was really looking forward to watching that.
CL.
Hey, Roy, this is a two-part question. I was wondering how likely do you think there will be an actual July recruiting period? And in what ways, if there's not, in what ways are you anticipating have to adjust in terms of, your recruiting process?
Does the B on your hat stand for Brown?
Brooklyn. That's my daughter's name.
I just wondered there. CL, I don't have any idea. I really don't. I mean, I've been talking to NBA people. I talked to other college coaches, and the general consensus is what it should be, that nobody has any idea what is going to happen. I think June is out of the question also. So I'm just hoping for the July period. And if not, then what you're going to do is you're going to rely more heavily on tapes. You're going to rely more heavily on high school coaches' recommendations, word of mouth from people that have seen them. And I've been around a long time, so I do know a lot of people around the country, but it's going to be very uncomfortable. There's no question if you don't get to put your eyes on somebody. And looking at somebody on tape, to me, is a good start. With gracious sakes, I hate trying to make a decision, scholarship or no scholarship, on a guy just by watching him on tape. But it's the world we're in right now, and we've got to go with what we have. But I'm not looking forward to making those kind of decisions without being able to put my eyes on somebody personally.
Aaron Beard.
Hey, Roy, I was curious how much with these weird times going on, you maybe have done the MBA, consulting, getting feedback for guys and those types of process things, if they're even operating at all. And obviously the season would only ended last night, so it might be even too early for that usually for you.
Well, I'm doing the same thing with that situation, Aaron, that I have always done. At the end of our season, I'd get some guys together and talk to them and see what they have their interest in, talk to their parents. We've sent information, see if I get this right, the undergraduate evaluation committee. I don't know if that, advisory council, I think that's what they changed the name to. We've sent that in on the two different players and got the information and shared that with them. But that's what I would normally do all the time anyway.
Jonathan?
Hey, Roy, I'm just wondering how you mentioned that you've met with or you've Zoomed with your players and staff. How is the health of your players and staff and their families, and your family as well? Yeah,
everybody seems to be doing well. I had to correct a few of them because I said, my family's good, and that kind of thing. I said, that's good, but it'd be better English if you know adverbs and adjectives kind of thing. But no, everybody so far, knock on wood, so far no one has been touched by their immediate family. And that's a blessing and hope that stays that way. But that is the first question I ask, and every player responded to that. So I felt good about that. But, it's such a weird that you can't see it. You can't have any idea you don't know what to fight. And so just trying to take the advice of the scientists and the medical people and not the politicians, I think is the best thing that can happen in the world right now.
Brendan?
Hey, Roy, you mentioned being able to talk and to communicate with your guys at least. How does this complicate the injury recovery for somebody like an Anthony? How are they able to interact with trainers and do rehab at home?
Well, Jonas and Doug, Jonas, our strength conditioning coach, has given everybody an individual workout with whatever materials they may have, if they've got a ball or a band or if nothing, just working on body weight. But Jonas has given a workout routine to every one of our players. And Doug, our trainer, is in constant contact. And I'll use the example of Anthony. And the better thing, it'd be more scary if this had happened immediately after Anthony's injury. But he's done a great job with his rehab and has really gotten off to a great start with that. And so Doug is visiting with him daily also, and still talking about what he needs to be doing. There's no way in the world it's as good as it would be if they were in the Smith Center, in the trainer's room or in the weight room. But I think that Anthony really has started out with such a great job that his situation, he's already seen the fruits of his hard work. And so I think he'll continue that as well.
Dana?
And Sterling, I think Doug even told me this morning that he had talked to Sterling, and Sterling was doing well also.
Sorry, Coach.
Gotcha, thanks.
No problem.
Dana?
Yeah, Roy, from my memory, you're not the most technologically sound person, I don't believe.
Wow.
And I'm just wondering what your learning curve has been like the last few weeks.
Well, I do know what Zoom is, and I participated, probably counting the PSAs and interviews that I've had for the Nurses Association and everybody else. Probably 10 of these, so at least I can see my face up there and see how bad I look with the fake beard and these kind of things. But my wife is here at home, and she set up. I go back to campus on Sunday nights and stay there Monday, and Eric Coots and our guys are setting it up. So I know what it is. But it'd be really, if it were left up to me, Dana, I probably wouldn't be doing this very much at all.
Ross?
Hey, Coach, I was wondering your contact you're having with your incoming freshmen, and do you expect them to get on campus in June, and what kind of conversations you're having about players that potentially could enroll in 2 months?
Well, I've had conversations every week with all of our incoming freshmen. They're not coming to campus in June because we're not having summer school. They've canceled summer school at North Carolina, so they're not coming to campus then. We're talking to them right now and trying to see how their own family situation is more than anything. And as we get closer, and I've told every one of them, hopefully by the end of April, we'll have a much better idea of possibly what might happen. But I'm not talking to anybody about anything yet because we don't know anything.
Luke to Kai. There you go. Go ahead, Luke.
Got it. You mentioned the PSAs, Roy, and I'm curious, other than the one you did with Kevin and Mike early on, how many have you done, and kind of how have you been roped into doing those?
Well, it's not roped. They've asked me to do it, and I'm willing to do anything that will help us. And I think I did one for our student athletes on campus, or our student athletes at North Carolina, the community, the healthcare personnel at the hospital, the nurses. Seems like there was another one, but I can't remember. So I think I did. Well, that was one with Mike and Kevin, was the one for the governor. Seems like there's one more, but I've done at least 5 or 6.
I've got a few more for you.
No, I'm willing to do those things because as I was growing up, and even up until the last several months, all of my heroes, or my biggest heroes, were my teachers that I'd had all the way through high school and college, and the mentors that I've had. But now my heroes are all the healthcare people and the providers. And I just can't imagine those doctors and nurses going to work every day and worrying about their own health and how it's going to affect their families, and yet they still keep going. So they're definitely my heroes right now.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Andrew Jones.
Coach, a little bit of basketball stuff here. Have you been able to reflect much on this season over the last few weeks, or has everything that's been going on sort of consumed you more so, and you just decided to maybe push it aside until things kind of clear up some?
Well, I haven't decided to push it aside, but you're exactly right. What's going on in our world has definitely dominated my thoughts, period, for sure. When I wish the season had ended about 18 hours earlier, so our last game could have been the Virginia Tech game. That would have given us better feelings than the Syracuse game did. But we lost on Wednesday, came back to school on Thursday. I had appointments with 8 of our players on Friday. I got some more over the weekend through Monday, and talked to them just about what the plan was. And it was a plan of doubt because nobody knew what was going on, but we didn't talk about what happened during the season or anything at all. The staff, we've talked a little bit more about it ourselves, and it's just a lot of things that sort of got together at the same time that made things really difficult. But the more we've gotten away from the season and trying to look into the future about what's going to happen, when are we going to be able to recruit, no summer school, okay, that changes the plans. I mean, right now that's really dominated everything else. But, you know, I did the worst job I've ever done of getting guys to play close to their potential. I didn't get enough of the guys to do that. Some of those guys didn't play very well. We had injuries that really kept us in a flux the whole time. The worst practice scenario we've ever had about guys being in and out, in and out, in and out. So it was a lot of factors, and I don't think there's one simple answer other than the fact that we just got our tails beat, and we got to put it behind us and learn from those mistakes and not do the same things again.
Josh Graham?
Going in a bit of a different direction, Coach. I saw the Michael Jordan documentary got moved up, and you're going to be featured in that. Michael was named by ESPN the greatest college player ever. What were your earliest impressions of Michael as somebody who was at North Carolina, of course, at the time?
Well, it stands out very vividly because he came to our basketball camp the summer before his senior year. And Eddie Fogler and I had decided we wanted to try to get as many prospects as we could to come to camp. So we called all the better players around the state and our area. But it was a tough call because we said, we'd love to have you come to camp, but you got to pay. And but fortunately for us, Clifton Pops Herrig, Michael's high school coach, was very involved at that time, and we got Michael to come to camp. And on Sunday afternoon and early evening, I had all the kids come through Carmichael and play just pickup. And the counselor would bring over 30 kids, and they'd stay for 30 minutes, and then they'd leave and bring another group over. And it was they had to walk from Carmichael all the way to Granville, which, geez, that's probably a mile or so, I don't know, but it was hot. And so Michael's group came over, and he went back, and then he walked back with another group who wanted to play some more. And so I just told him to stay, and I ended up giving him a ride back to Granville. And I told Eddie Fogler that night, I think I just saw the best 6'4" high school player I've ever seen. That blankety blank, who was that? And I told him Mike Jordan from Wilmington. And I really believed that at that time, and it stood out more than anything I'd ever seen. And by the end of the Smith was having lunch with him, and Eddie and I were having breakfast with him, and all the things that so we got a pretty good head start on everybody. And they were going to send him to another camp, and they asked questions about the BC camp or 5-star, and I suggested that he go to 5-star because I thought that would be better fundamentally for him. And later on, Coach Smith got mad at me. Why'd you tell him to go there? And I said, well, he was going somewhere. I just thought it would be the best to go there. But we did have a tremendous head start after him being at camp, and just an incredible person. To this day, still treats me like he did 30 years ago or 40 years ago, I guess it almost is now. But just an incredible person, incredible work ethic, and will to win better than anybody I've ever seen, and the focus better than any basketball player I've ever seen. The only person that's ever compared to him basketball-wise with how he focused and was so determined was Tyler Hansbrough, but Mike was just at a different level than anybody other than Tiger Woods in his sport.
Anybody else have a question? I don't have any hands raised right now.
Well, guys, thank you very much for being here. And I don't think we'll do this every Tuesday morning for the summer for sure, but maybe we'll see and do some other things later in the summer.
Coach, I got one more from Charlie Mickens here. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, hey, Coach. I was just wondering if you've had any discussions with any of the other coaches around the country. Is there any value in trying to figure out a national champion this year or declaring a national champion in absence of the tournament?
I don't see any value in that. I mean, I'm going to say 2 times, but maybe 3, my team ended up being number 1, or our team number 1 in the final Associated Press poll, but we didn't cut down the nets. And, in early in the 20s, 1920s, not the 2020s, but 1920s, Kansas was named a national champion, and so was North Carolina, but that's the way it was done. And then 40 some years in the 1940s, I forget what year it was, we started playing a national tournament. And so to me, that's the way you name a national champion. And, our women's tennis team is ranked number 1 in the country, and have pretty handled everybody pretty well, and won the indoor championship, but nobody's given them the national championship. So I think you still have to play it on the court. But like I say, our team has ended up number 1, and Steve may want to do the research on this, but I think one time at Kansas, and I think one time, maybe 2 times at North Carolina, once as an assistant, once as a head coach, that our team has ended up being number 1 in the Associated Press poll. But that's so valid, I can't even remember which years. So I can remember 82 and 05, 09, and 17.
Got last question, Ross Martin. Go ahead, Ross.
Yeah, Coach, I know you haven't spoken with your players like at the post-season meeting like you usually have, but what are you looking for improvement-wise from your returning starters? Armando, Garrison, and Leakey. Could you briefly talk about those guys, what they need to do better next season?
Yeah, I think Armando's one's got to take giant leaps. He's got to be able to be more efficient as finishing around the basket, be able to do more defense without getting silly fouls, understanding that all the little things that we talk about the entire season, like setting legal screens, has got to be important to him. He is a wonderful kid, and he is coachable, but he's got to raise that level, because at the Notre Dame game, that illegal screen was a big game, and we had harped on it and yelled at him all year long about those things. So he's got to accept that and take the little things and realize how important they are. And I think he will, because like I say, he's just a wonderful, wonderful kid. Got to push himself a little harder. But the biggest thing is being able to finish around the basket. And when you get the ball in that area, you got to be able to make the play. Leakey, stay healthy. We want him to be able to play multiple positions, because I think that's so important to him. But if there's one thing that is no question, it's not a surprise to anybody, got to be able to make outside shots, and also use his athleticism more than he does. And I think that he could be the best defender in all of college basketball if he would slide his feet better and use his athleticism. And I say best defender on the perimeter. And then Garrison, continue to build on what he's done, work more on his shot, particularly the outside shot, coming in down, trailing in secondary break, whether it's a 3-pointer or a free throw line or anywhere in between. And also be able to slide his feet better to guard somebody out on the court, because I think that and his shot is going to be what he's going to need more in his future.
Thank you.
All right, Coach Williams, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Hope everybody stays safe. Be well, okay? Thank you.
Everybody stay healthy.
You too. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Roy. Appreciate it, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Roy. Thanks.